Making headlines this hour, Saudi media report that King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud will embark on a 5-nation Asian tour early next month, which includes an official visit to the Maldives. Leaders at the South Asian Speakers Summit signed a declaration to implement Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) in the region. And UN envoy to Syria says that talks to be held in Geneva will aim to see if there is a window for political negotiations to advance.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome you all to TVM News in English. I'm Zionatazan here with the news in details. Leaders at the South Asian Speakers Summit have signed a declaration to implement Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) in the region. It was signed on the concluding day of the 2-day meeting in India's central Madhya Pradesh state. Speaker of Parliament Abdullah Masih Muhammad represented the Maldives at the summit.
The speakers of national legislatures from South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation SAARC countries, except Pakistan and Myanmar, met for the second edition of the summit to discuss poverty, development, environment and gender concerns in the region. The 2-day summit, which concluded on Sunday, was attended by Maldives Parliament Speaker Abdullah Masih Muhammad, Afghanistan National Assembly Speaker Rauf Ibrahimi, Bangladesh Parliament Speaker Dr. Shirin Sharmin Chowdhury, Bhutan National Assembly Speaker Rijme Zangpo, Nepal Parliament Speaker Onasari Gadti and Sri Lankan Parliament Speaker Karu Jayasuriya. The delegates took part in 3 sessions discussing ways to identify resources for sustainable development goals, gender equality and dealing effectively with climate change and natural disasters. The leaders also signed a declaration to implement Sustainable Development Goal (SDGs) in the region. Representative of Bangladesh Parliament Sabir Hossain Chowdhury said the declaration would create opportunities for regional parliamentary cooperation.
The declaration talks about parliamentary cooperation. It talks about having shared experiences, what we can learn from each other. It also talks about setting up of joint parliamentary groups, something that I referred to yesterday. And I think what this will do is it will provide a mechanism for this forum to have an institutional shape. Yes, it's very good when the speakers meet, but the speakers cannot meet all the time. And some of the issues require very close, very in-depth study and consideration.
The South Asia region, with a population of 1.7 billion people, is the most densely populated geographical region of the world, with large number of people still living in extreme poverty, which continues to be a major challenge for the policymakers. Chowdhury said climate change, disaster risk reduction and gender equality remained one of the major challenges for the world.
So the Sustainable Development Goals, of course, are a goal for the entire world. It's not just this region. But the region has very special and specific challenges. And I think climate change is one of those challenges, disaster risk reduction, gender equality. We have a young population, so how do we create more opportunities for them? How can we ensure that they have jobs when they finish their studies? So these are very important areas.
Pakistan had earlier declined to attend the event in an apparent tit-for-tat over India's boycott of a SAARC summit in Islamabad last year, which led to its cancellation after other member countries also pulled out. Tensions between the nuclear-armed neighbours have escalated following recent militant attacks on an Indian Air Force base and another at an army camp in Indian Kashmir. Previously, in January 2016, the delegation met in Dhaka, Bangladesh, to discuss ways and concrete actions for their respective parliaments to help implement the SDGs.
Saudi media report that King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud will embark on the 5-nation Asian tour early next month, which includes an official visit to the Maldives. It is reported to be followed by a vacation in the Maldives. The Saudi Gazette reported that Saudi King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud will visit Indonesia, Japan, China, Malaysia and the Maldives. Citing well-informed sources, the newspaper reported that the high-profile visit shows the keenness of the kingdom to expand its ties with East Asian nations in the changed global scenario. Indonesian Religious Affairs Minister Lukman Hakim Saifuddin said that King Salman's week-long visit to Indonesia will further bolster the strategic relations between the two countries. The Saudi-Indonesian summit talks, led by King Salman and Indonesian President Joko Widodo, will cover the entire gamut of bilateral relations. Saudi Arabia signed several landmark agreements with China and Japan during the visit of Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, second Deputy Premier and Minister of Defense. President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom has appointed Dr. Hussein Niaz as Ambassador of the Maldives to the United Arab Emirates. President Yamin presented the letter of appointment to the new ambassador at a ceremony held at the President's office this morning. President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom appoints Ibrahim Shahiq to the Civil Service Commission of the Maldives. Mr. Shahiq's oath of office was administered by Supreme Court Judge Ustaz Abdullah Arif during a ceremony at the President's office this morning. Chinese Assistant Foreign Minister Kong Xuanyu concludes his official visit to the Maldives. Xuanyu arrived in Maldives on Friday for the sixth round of consultations between foreign ministers of Maldives.
Chinese Assistant Foreign Minister Kong Xuanyu led the Chinese delegation at the sixth round of consultations between the foreign ministers of China and the Maldives, which was held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Sunday. During the consultations, the two countries discussed cooperation in areas of mutual interest, including development cooperation, tourism promotion, human resource development, youth and sports, trade as well as investment cooperation between the two countries. The two countries also exchanged views on development projects such as China-Maldives Friendship Bridge project, social housing, and the project to upgrade and expand Velana International Airport. On Saturday, the Assistant Minister also visited the sites of ongoing projects carried out with assistance from the Chinese government, including the China-Maldives Friendship Bridge project and housing projects in Hulumale. On Sunday, he paid a courtesy call on President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom. At the meeting, the President emphasized that the government of Maldives attaches very high importance to its relations with China and expresses sincere gratitude for the strengthened cooperation between Maldives and China, as well as for the support and assistance that China continues to extend for the socio-economic development of the Maldives. The Assistant Foreign Minister highlighted that China and the Maldives have enjoyed cordial relations over the past years and expressed confidence that the existing relations between the two countries will go from strength to strength in the years ahead. He also conveyed assurances of continued assistance from China to the Maldives under the leadership of President Xi Jinping. Also on Sunday, the Chinese Assistant Foreign Minister paid a courtesy call on Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Muhammad Asim. During the call, the Foreign Minister and China's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs exchanged views on further strengthening the bilateral relations between the two countries.
Tonight in business, the Economic Ministry and the World Trade Organization begin a workshop on enhancing trade negotiations capacity of government officials and other stakeholders.
The two-day workshop titled A National Workshop Enhancing Trade Negotiations Capacity of Government Officials and Other Stakeholders Maldives is being held at Customs Building. The workshop was inaugurated by Economic Minister Mohammed Said. Speaking at the ceremony, Economic Minister Said said the Maldives' graduation from LDC status in 2011 has given the country enormous challenges, especially in trade facilitations, and it has joined numerous free trade blocs in order to overcome those challenges. The minister said that the government is working with international partners to address capacity building and strengthening the institutions. Speaking at the event, WTO Director Development Division Shishir Priyadarushi commended the initiative taken by the Economic Ministry and the government to overcome the obstacles faced by the country since the Maldives was graduated from the least developed nations list to the developing nations list. He noted that the country has shaped its largest industries, tourism and fisheries, in an environmentally friendly manner.
You undergo extremely environment-friendly fishing, which obviously makes the cost of fishing slightly more expensive. But it's important that the kind of national policies you follow as far as your fishing industry are concerned are duly reflected in the discussions as they take forward.
The Economic Ministry says participants of the workshop will be provided information on free trade, multilateral trading system and work carried out by the WTO. The workshop, facilitated by experts from the WTO, is attended by 63 officials from government offices and state-owned and private corporations.
People across India welcomes the Central Reserve Bank's move to raise weekly cash withdrawal limit for saving bank accounts to Rs 50,000.
The Reserve Bank of India (RBI) earlier this month announced that cash withdrawal limit from savings bank accounts will be relaxed to 50,000 rupees a week from February 20th. The RBI had imposed curbs on cash withdrawal from ATMs in November after the government announced a ban on old high-value currency notes of rupees 500 and 1,000 and began a process to replace them with new notes. The move was billed as an attempt to root out corruption and terror financing and move the country into the age of digital payments, but it brought India's cash economy to a virtual standstill as millions of Indians lined up outside banks and ATMs to exchange old banknotes or to withdraw money from their accounts. The Federal Bank plans to remove all curbs on cash withdrawal limit from ATMs from March 13th.
This news updates from international arena. A New Delhi-bound express train derails after colliding with the freight wagon in Firozabad district of India's northern Uttar Pradesh state.
The accident took place as the two trains coming from opposite directions were plying on adjacent tracks. At least 6 coaches of the express train were derailed. Chief Public Relations Officer of Northern Railways Vijay Kumar said there had been no casualties. Police teams and rescue personnel were rushed to the spot to ensure that no passenger was trapped in the mangled coaches of the train. The accident adversely affected the route between Delhi and Eastern Howrah district, leading to cancellations and diversions of several trains. Operations are underway to clear the track and restore traffic movement. Special trains and buses were being run between the northern Agra and Jhansi district to accommodate the rush of passengers. A probe has been ordered into the incident, latest in a series of accidents in the recent months that have raised concerns about the safety of the Asian rail network. India's railway system is the world's 4th largest. It runs 11,000 trains a day, including 7,000 passenger trains carrying more than 20 million people. But it has a poor safety record, with thousands of people dying in accidents every year, including in train derailments and collisions. In one of the biggest accidents, at least 146 people were killed when a train derailed near Kanpur on November 20th.
Of India says about 62% of voter turnout was recorded in the 3rd phase of polling in northern Uttar Pradesh state.
Voters for 69 seats across 12 districts queued up outside polling stations to elect legislators who will rule the improvised state. It is the biggest test of support for Prime Minister Narendra Modi since he rose to power 3 years ago. Deputy Election Commissioner Vijay Kumar Dev said the tally is expected to touch 63% as long queues were witnessed outside polling booths even after 5 p.m.
As at 5 p.m., the voting percentage has been 61.16% and counting, exactly at 5 p.m., but there were huge queues at that point of time, 61.16. We also calculated the previous figures specifically for these areas, these assembly constituencies, and in 2012 the percentage was 59.9%, and in 2014 it was 58.4%. In 2012 it was 59.9%, and in 2014 58.4%. We expect to reach or even cross probably 63%.
The third phase of polls created another infamous record in cash and liquor seizure, as authorities seized about 384 million rupees in currency notes and about 204,000 litres of liquor. They've thanked all stakeholders, including locals and the media, for helping to conduct a largely incident-free election.
With all these measures and with the peacefulness that has been portrayed by the citizens of this area, I'm happy to say that this phase has been incident-free, this phase has been violence-free, there have been no casualties, and I'm sure that in the coming phases also we would be able to keep this tone which has been set in intact.
Uttar Pradesh is holding 7 rounds of voting, moving from west to east in a state more populous than Brazil, to allow security forces to redeploy and curb the risk of electoral violence or malpractice. Final results on March 11th in Uttar Pradesh and 4 other state elections will deliver voters' first verdict on Modi's shock decision in November to withdraw 86% of the cash in circulation. The banknote ban was launched to purge the economy of black money, untaxed income and the proceeds of crime and corruption, but it has disrupted daily life and caused an economic slowdown.
The Turkish military says that 18 IS targets have been hit in the strategic town of Al-Bab in northern Syria. A military statement said that 16 buildings, a weaponry depot and a car carrying weapons were destroyed in the airstrikes. Last week, Turkey's military said it was close to taking Syria's Al-Bab from IS, but a war monitor said the militants still controlled 90% of the town and that shelling and airstrikes had killed dozens of civilians in recent days. Al-Bab, an IS militant stronghold 20 miles from the Turkish border, has been a prime target since Turkey launched an incursion last August to push the militants from its frontier and prevent gains by a Kurdish militia also fighting them. Taking control of the town would deepen Turkish influence in an area of Syria where it has already effectively created a buffer zone and allow Turkish forces to press on towards Raqqa, the de facto capital of the militants in Syria. The United Nations envoy to Syria says that talks to be held from February 23rd in Geneva will aim to see if there is a window for political negotiations to advance. Staffan de Mistura told delegates at the Munich Security Conference, referring to separate ceasefire talks in the Kazakh capital between Turkey, Russia and Iran, that the ceasefire is holding more than previous ones, and noted that the agreement has more chances to actually succeed than the previous agreements. He said the Geneva talks would be based on UN Security Council Resolution 2254. Iraq's Ministry of Defense releases footage of its airstrikes on IS targets in the western flank of the northern city of Mosul.
Commander of the Army Aviation General Hamid al-Maliki said Iraqi helicopters carried out 22 strikes, killing 93 IS militants. US-backed Iraqi forces on Sunday launched a ground offensive to dislodge IS militants from their Romanian stronghold in Mosul, in the western part of the city, and put an end to their ambitions for territorial rule in Iraq. US-backed Iraqi forces began towards Mosul's airport as they seek to capture the entire city from IS militants. The airport is the first target of a ground offensive to capture the western side of the city that remains under the control of militants. According to statements from the Armed Forces Joint Command, Iraqi federal police units are leading a northward charge on the Mosul districts that lie west of the Tigris River, aiming to capture the Mosul airport located just south of the city. The Armed Forces Joint Command statements said that several villages and a local power distribution station were captured in the first hours of the offensive, while several militants, including snipers, were killed. Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi announced the start of the offensive in the northern Iraqi city. IS militants are essentially under siege in western Mosul, along with an estimated 650,000 civilians, after they were forced out of the eastern part of the city in the first phase of an offensive that concluded last month after 100 days of fighting. The United Nations has said that up to 400,000 civilians could be displaced by the offensive, as residents of western Mosul suffer food and fuel shortages and markets are closed.
Defense Secretary Jim Mattis says the U.S. military is not in Iraq to seize anybody's oil. It distanced himself from remarks by President Donald Trump before arriving on an unannounced visit to Baghdad.
Mattis, who departed the United Arab Emirates and embarked on his first trip to Iraq as Pentagon chief, is hoping to get a first-hand assessment of the war effort as the US-backed Iraqi forces launch a new push to evict IS militants from their remaining stronghold in the city of Mosul. However, he is likely to face questions about Trump's remarks and actions, including a temporary ban on travel to the United States, and for saying America should have seized Iraq's oil after toppling leader Saddam Hussein in 2003. Trump told CIA staff in a January speech that the United States should have kept the oil. Asked whether a threat to seize Iraq's oil was on the agenda for his Iraq visit, Mattis flatly ruled out any such intent. Mattis told a small group of reporters traveling with him as he discussed his objectives for the trip that the U.S. military is not in Iraq to seize oil. Mattis' remarks are only the latest example of his policy differences with Trump. Trump has acknowledged that Mattis did not agree with him about the usefulness of torture as an interrogation tactic, but in a sign of Mattis' influence, said he would defer the matter to his defense secretary.
U.S. President Donald Trump says in a tweet that his earlier comments about terror attack in Sweden is based on an actual news account.
His suggestion that Sweden experienced an immigration-related security incident prompted a baffled response from the Scandinavian country on Sunday, as diplomats asked for an explanation and citizens responded with amusement. Trump, who in his first weeks in office has tried to sharply tighten U.S. borders on national security grounds, cited Sweden as a country that had experienced problems with immigrants in remarks at a rally on Saturday.
Here's the bottom line. We've got to keep our country safe. You look at what's happening. We've got to keep our country safe. You look at what's happening in Germany. You look at what's happening last night in Sweden. Sweden. Who would believe this? Sweden. They took in large numbers. They're having problems like they never thought possible. You look at what's happening in Brussels. You look at what's happening all over the world. Take a look at Nice. Take a look at Paris. We've allowed thousands and thousands of people into our country, and there was no way to vet those people. There was no documentation. There was no nothing. So we're going to keep our country safe.
That appeared to confuse the Swedish government, which asked the U.S. State Department to explain what the new president meant. The State Department said it did not comment on diplomatic communications. Trump has been widely criticized for making assertions with little supporting evidence. In recent months, he has argued that more than 3 million people voted fraudulently in the U.S. election, an assertion that elections officials say is false, and incorrectly stated that he won the election by the most decisive margin in decades. Swedish news sources made no mention of a recent terrorism attack or other high-profile crime in the country. Fox News, a US cable news channel that has sometimes been cited favorably by Trump, ran a report on Friday night about alleged migrant-related crime problems in the country. Official statistics show that Sudan's crime rate has fallen since 2005, even as the country has taken in hundreds of thousands of immigrants from war-torn countries like Syria and Iraq.
Tonight in sports, Manchester United's Zlatan Ibrahimovic came off the bench to score the winner as they recovered from an early deficit to beat champion strugglers Blackburn Rovers 2-1 away in the FA Cup fifth.
Rovers, whose priority is to avoid relegation to English soccer's third tier, took the lead in the 17th minute through Denny Graham. But Marcus Rashford levelled before half-time. 12 times FA Cup winners United dominated the game after the break, but had to wait until the 75th minute for Ibrahimovic to slot the winner after being set free by a precise long pass delivered by yellow substitute Paul Pogba. It was Swede Ibrahimovic's first goal in the FA Cup and 24th in all competitions this season. Blackburn thought they had scrambled a late equaliser when Anthony Stokes poked the ball home, but a linesman's flag cut short the celebrations.
With that, we conclude the news for this evening. Thanks for being with us. Good night and bye-bye.